Most people believe that sexual magnetism lies in beauty, the body, perfume, or well-chosen words, but they are completely mistaken. True magnetism is not a matter of appearance, but of psychic energy. Carl Jung once said, "What you repress controls you. What you integrate emanates from you." And it is this subtle emanation that defines their power of attraction. What makes someone irresistible is not what they show, but what they contain. The body can be beautiful, but if the energy that supports it lacks security, it becomes repulsive. Magnetism is born from a silence imbued with presence, from a gaze that seems to penetrate the invisible layers of the other. It's not about having, but about containing. Containing desire, containing the anxiety of impressing, containing the need to please. Magnetism is the effect of the inner tension that one has learned to master. The tension between impulse and self-control, between desire and purpose, between tact and expectation. Jung saw the unconscious as a living reservoir. Everything you think you're hiding, everything you repress or ignore, continues to work within you, but beneath the surface. And this is precisely why some people exude something inexplicable, yet palpable. They have learned to integrate their shadows, their instincts, their fears, which gives them a perceptible density. We feel that there are layers, a depth. The body only expresses what the soul contains. Thus, no matter how hard one tries to copy a style, a way of being, a model of seduction, nothing works without true energy. Because what attracts is not the gesture itself, but the inner state that generates it. Carl Jung spoke of archetypes, but also of autonomous complexes, parts of the self with a life of their own. And a person full of unresolved complexes conveys confusion. A well-rounded person conveys order. Want to be magnetic? Then learn not to act first. The first rule is simple: never be the first to explain. Most people have a reflex to justify the silence, fill the void and prove that everything is fine. But true magnetism comes from those who remain silent, without hesitation. When you walk into a room and feel compelled to say something to be accepted, you've already lost, because your energy field molds itself to the other person's expectations. What attracts is the opposite: the consistency of those who don't conform, of those who remain themselves even in discomfort. This arouses curiosity, and curiosity is the gateway to desire. Lack of haste creates tension, and where attention is sustained, fascination is born. He who does not rush controls the pace. Second rule: never seek to conquer. Make yourself noticed. Attempts to impress are notorious because they are born of necessity, and nothing is more repugnant than an explicit attempt to attract attention. The most attractive person is the one who moves naturally, as if they are perfectly comfortable with their own existence, as if they need nothing. This is not arrogance, but fulfillment. It is the state of someone who does not seek validation, but rather experience. This is the archetype of the silent sage, the one who walks lightly because they have made peace with their inner being. Jung said that libido, understood not as sexual energy but as a life force, must be directed with intention. By investing your energy in observation, rather than presumptuously, you begin to see what others don't. And those who see deeply move deeply. Third rule: master your presence before seeking to be present. It's a common misconception that presence depends on attention. However, what defines your presence isn't your presence, but the influence you exert in the room, even in silence. It's possible to be the center of attention without being the center of attention, and it's this kind of presence that mesmerizes. Magnetic people don't make noise, but they're missed because the space they create is memorable. How? By being fully present, neither in the past, nor in the future, nor in action, nor in comparison, but in pure and lucid observation. These people don't look at much, but when they do, they leave a trace. They touch little, but when they do, they leave a trace. Touching doesn't require force when it comes from someone dense. This is where the most subtle, psychodynamic of all comes into play: the control of anticipation. What makes something desirable isn't its frequency, but how long you wait for it. Magnetism develops in the interval, in the strategic delay, in the instant when you could touch but not. You could praise but remain silent. You could approach but step back slightly. This activates the brain's search system. Dopamine is not generated by reward, but by anticipation. It's a fundamental principle of neuroscience. And whoever masters expectation masters desire. Jung spoke of the tension of opposites as the true engine of psychic transformation. And what is seduction if not the dance between opposites? Approach and withdrawal, access and distancing, action and contemplation. Most people want to solve problems quickly. They want it guaranteed immediately. But magnetism consists of leaving the doors ajar, of suggesting more than revealing, of creating mental images instead of explaining. Those who explain too much eliminate mystery. And where there is no mystery, there is no error. For desire is driven by what we do not yet have, but which we feel is within reach. The error is to reveal everything at once: body, attention, history, emotion. All of this saturates the field and weakens the energy. The secret lies in moderation, in modulating surrender, in the art of leaving traces rather than maps. The unconscious loves symbols, and magnetic people are full of symbols, ambiguous gestures, enigmatic glances, pauses more eloquent than words. None of this can be faked. The other person's subconscious senses the falseness. But when these gestures come from someone who is truly in control of their impulses, the effect is immediate because the body speaks. And the body of a fully integrated person moves differently. Touch is more conscious, gaze more intense. Breathing has a different rhythm. And all of this is communicated without the need to utter a single word. Jung said that the collective unconscious responds to universal symbols, and a person who becomes a symbol of security, depth, and freedom becomes a living archetype for those who know them. And they never forget an archetype. It begins to shape their dreams, thoughts, and desires. This is magnetism. The fourth rule is to master emotional timing. Psychological timing isn't like clockwork. There's a right time to approach, a right time to interrupt, and the precise moment when tension becomes fertile. Those who master magnetism understand that impact lies not in excess, but in precision. It's like playing a note on the piano. It's not enough to play loudly or softly. We must connect to the moment when silence begs for sound. This mastery is not learned through imitation, but through attention. We only know the right moment when we learn to listen to the invisible, field between ourselves and the other, when we perceive the moment when the gaze demands a presence without saying it, when we perceive the other's body opening up even before they move. Jung called this synchronicity, this mysterious intersection between the inner and outer worlds. When we are fully within ourselves, we grasp. When we are internally distracted, we force. This emotional synchronization is like a dance. The dancer who tries to lead too soon stumbles. He who waits too long misses the music. Magnetism is rhythm. It is the ability to perceive another's emotional rhythm without losing sight of one's own. Magnetic presence is therefore not invasive. It adapts without being suppressed. It penetrates the other's emotional field as if it already belonged there, but withdraws at its peak so as not to become predictable. This creates an emotional memory, that feeling that something special has happened, even without a clear explanation. The brain doesn't cling to what is rationally satisfying. It clings to what hasn't been completely resolved. The memory that returns isn't the most intense, but the most unfinished. Fifth rule, use absence as language. Many believe the secret lies in consistency, but the human body doesn't respond the same way to constant stimulation. Constants lose their value. What is interrupted at the right moment leaves a trace. Magnetism consists of provoking a strategic absence, a conscious disappearance, an intentional withdrawal, not as punishment but as contrast. When one becomes too present, one loses one's lucidity. But when one withdraws at one's peak, one becomes a ghost. And ghosts are more seductive than real people because they occupy the imaginary, the symbolic space, the realm of projections. Jung said that where there is no consciousness, destiny manifests itself, and those who master magnetism know exactly where to stop so that the other remains within them. This movement of withdrawal is not intended to generate insecurity, but to activate the desire for reunion. Only those who don't fear absence can master it brilliantly. Most disappear to seek revenge, to manipulate, to flee. But magnetism disappears gracefully, as if offering space, as if convinced that its trace speaks louder than its presence. This absence isn't a rejection, it's an invitation. And a silent invitation is worth more than 1,000 promises. He asks, do you still feel me even without seeing me? If the answer is yes, the connection is not created in the body, but in the psyche. and connections created in the psyche are not broken by distance. The sixth rule is to make touch a portal. Most people touch by reflex, by impulse, by necessity, but magnetic touch is born not of necessity, but of intention. It's a gesture laden with meaning. Slower, more conscious, more symbolic. It appears when the body is already emotionally prepared, and thus imbues itself with a profound experience. A simple touch on the back, a light pressure on the arm, a finger that slides a few millimeters further than necessary. Simple gestures, but of immense emotional density, because they emanate from someone who feels, perceives, and acts with precision. Jung said that the body carries psychic content, and that's why a gesture conveys more than just a touch. It conveys information. Those who touch with presence convey a sense of care, strength, and security. And all this without words. It is at this point that the body becomes a map. Not a map to be explored, but to be deciphered. Magnetic people don't take shortcuts. They observe, touch less, but touch correctly, which activates the primitive regions of the brain. The limbic system responds to touch, smell, temperature, and breathing. True seduction lies not in what one sees, but in what one feels internally. An unexpected but respectful touch. A pause before contact. Slower breathing that regulates the other's rhythm. The body is a radar, but it only works for those who are present. Distracted people don't notice the subtle changes in the pupils. Attentive people don't even perceive the emotional vibrations of the skin. All this requires exceptional self-control, because desire tends to rush us, but magnetism is born from the opposite. From calm, from those who, even when they desire, do not rush. Jung saw desire not as an enemy, but as an energy to be transmuted. When the impulse is controlled without being repressed, it transforms. It becomes a penetrating gaze, a subtle gesture, an enveloping presence, and this is felt in the air like a silent electricity, like a contagious breath, like a magnetic field that seems to attract even without movement. And there's something even deeper in all this, the power to contain one's own narrative. Magnetism doesn't tell the whole story. It suggests, it leaves blank spaces. It allows the other to imagine, to complete, to project, and this active participation of the other creates a bond. Jung said that the unconscious seeks completeness, and when someone becomes the symbol of what we lack, we feel attracted. This is how fascination is born, not by being complete, but by reflecting what the other seeks to complete. Not by being obvious, but by being enigmatic enough to keep the subconscious searching for answers. Sexual magnetism is not about being desirable, but about being unforgettable. This only happens when the other doesn't understand exactly why they were so deeply moved. For the body may forget the gesture, but the subconscious never forgets the emotional impact it left. What leaves a mark is not what is said, but what is felt between the words. What transforms is not a constant presence, but a presence that penetrates deeply, even in a short period of time. It is not the quantity of interaction, but the quality of the field generated. The seventh rule is to never repeat patterns. Human desire dies in predictability. The unconscious yearns for movement, surprise, and renewal. And this is precisely why relationships die. Not from the absence of love, but from the repetition of the same gesture, the same word, the same moment, the same approach. Magnetism fades when the other person already knows what you're going to say. When every touch is identical to the last, when every encounter has the same emotional cadence, the unconscious needs variation. Jung said that psychic energy is organized in spirals, not straight lines. This means that any repetition that is too frequent becomes an emotional routine, and routine dulls the senses. If you want to keep someone emotionally alert, never transmit the same energy twice. Today it's hot, tomorrow it's windy. Today we dive, tomorrow we float. Fascination is fueled by the unexpected, not by exaggeration or chaos, but by an emotional intelligence that gracefully balances extremes. A magnetic person knows how to vary without contradicting themselves. They don't change their mood, they change their vibration. Sometimes their presence is fire, sometimes fog. This creates a vibrant and nuanced field, one that the other wants to decipher but never succeeds. This is what fuels desire, the feeling that there is always something new to reveal. A woman or man who expresses themselves in the same way every day becomes unreliable, boring, and boredom is the opposite of desire. Magnetism lives on the border between the familiar and the mysterious. If everything is new, it frightens. If everything is the same, it turns off. Art is about creating variations within a single tone. The eighth rule: inspire primitive instincts. The conscious mind is slow, critical, and logical, but desire is born in older places. In the body, in the senses, in the sense of smell in the skin. True magnetism penetrates the reptilian unconscious. This is why small details matter so much. The speed of your speech, the rhythm of your breathing, your movements as you enter a space. All of this is recorded non-verbally. The other's body picks up more than it hears. Carl Jung asserted that the psyche is both personal and collective, and it is in the collective that archetypes live. By embodying an archetype, the silent hunter, the intuitive goddess, the serene sage, you activate unconscious responses derived from millennia of evolution. You are not just yourself. You are accessing memories that belong not just to the other, but to the species. And that's why certain presences touch you so deeply. They don't appeal to the ego, but to instinct. Use your gaze like an arrow. Don't look to see, look to touch. A gaze that lingers a second longer than intended creates tension. A gaze that wanders too quickly conveys insecurity. A gaze that is too focused becomes a threat. But one who looks calmly, with presence, with unspoken intentions, allows for a glimpse of possibilities. And where there is possibility, there is fantasy. And fantasy is the most powerful fuel of desire. A caress can be forgotten. A look cannot, because the look, carrying symbolism, penetrates layers inaccessible to the skin. It activates the imagination, which in turn activates chemicals. Dopamine, norepinephrine, oxytocin without contact. Magnetism is not a touch, it's a field. Ninth rule: create a sensory dependence. It's not an addiction, but a signature. Every human being has a set of gestures, smells, tones, and patterns of approach, but few translate them into language. Those who master magnetism become unforgettable because they create unique sensations. It's his touch, the sequence of his gestures, the way he brings his face closer, the silence before the kiss, the slowness with which he brushes your neck, the way he alternates between intensity and absence. All of this creates a unique experience. And when the other's body associates deep pleasure with this sequence, it begins to desire not just any caress, but that caress. Not just any kiss, but that kiss. Not just any company, but that emotional vibration that only a human being can transmit. That's what makes someone dangerous. They're not irreplaceable as a person, but as an experience. Because you can have the same perfume, the same body, the same style, but you can't reproduce the psychic field created. And it's desperate. Because the absence you feel isn't that of something visible, but of something felt. Jung said that the unconscious feeds on symbols, and that's exactly what you must become. A symbol of pleasure, of depth, of exceptional presence. Don't be just a name, be an emotional territory. And wherever you are absent, may you feel a different emptiness, one where nothing else fits, where nothing else is enough. 10th and final rule: desire intensely but control elegantly. The most common mistake is to believe that self-control is the absence of desire. But a strong desire is essential. It is desire that warms the presence, gives truth to the gesture, makes the gaze vibrate. The problem is not desire, but urgency. Magnetism is the art of desiring deeply without giving in to desire. It is containing the fire without extinguishing it. It is making it visible, but never implicit in the attitude. Jung spoke of the process of transformation as alchemy, taking raw material and refining it. Desire is raw material. Its mastery lies in the ability to elevate it without denying it, to transform it into power, magnetism, and aura. Whoever masters their own fire warms without burning, warms the field, warms memory, warms dreams, and then something changes. The protagonist ceases to be an ordinary man, an ordinary woman, and becomes an emotional reference, a sensory memory that no new experience can replace. The voice still resonates days later. The touch still throbs on the skin, even after the last encounter. For everything that has been done with presence, and true presence is rare. Most people live fragmented lives, filled with representations and anxiety. But those who live fully become remedies. They heal wounds without promises. They help others feel more whole simply by their presence, not by their words, but by their identity. And that's when magnetism becomes transcendence. It ceases to be mere attraction and becomes elevation, inspiration. Carl Jung would say that at this stage, the individual has become a symbol, a living representation of what the other's unconscious needs to touch in order to grow. It is no longer a matter of seduction, but of transformation. The true power of attraction lies not in conquering bodies, but in elevating souls. It is not a matter of guaranteeing a presence, but of leaving a legacy. Those who consciously master magnetism no longer need to manipulate, for they understand that the body is only the surface. The true field is the soul, and the soul responds to truth, to density, to beauty that does not scream, but vibrates. Now that you know this, nothing you did before will be enough for you, for you no longer want to be simply attractive. You want to be unforgettable. You don't want to have someone anymore. You want to be someone who is not forgotten. From today on, your contact will be more conscious, your silence more eloquent, your absence more weighty, and your presence, when it is felt, will change the atmosphere, for your energy will be charged not with anxiety, but with intention, not with need, but with fulfillment. You will cease to be a character, seeking to please and become the source, the space, the symbol. You will not be just another experience. You will be the experience. Remember that everything you have seen here is not a mere technique. It is a philosophy of life, applied psychology, refined energy. Carl Jung taught us that the unconscious shapes destiny, and now you have the opportunity to consciously shape yours. So subscribe, like, and dive into this profound journey, for what begins with desire can lead to awakening. Your magnetism doesn't need to be learned. It needs to be revealed.